My name is William Bryce Wasson. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona in 1923. My early childhood was a very happy time in my life. My father read poetry. My mother was a pianist, could play the piano beautifully by ear. A warm family. My parents loved me very much.
Delfshaven, near Rotterdam, Holland. From this ancient harbour, the Pilgrim Fathers set sail in 1620 to found a new homeland. A homeland we now know as the United States of America. Not diverted by matters other than the ones supporting their goals, not tempted by voices other than the voice of their heart, not led by other motives than their calling. The church where they spent their last night now is the oldest building in Rotterdam. I invited Father Wasson here on his trip to Holland. I knew he would appreciate the visit, and maybe more than that. Why do I admire Father Wasson? His unbreakable faith for one thing, and of course his friendly personality. But more than that, his persistence to achieve his goals through love. That impressed me the most when we first met down in Mexico a few years ago. He showed me round the orphanage up in the mountains near Mirkatlan, far away from the dangers of a city. Safely guarded by these ancient walls of what once was Pancho Villa's hideout, thousands and thousands of orphaned and abandoned children have found a new future. I remember I was overwhelmed by the greatness and beauty of it all, and the thought that this was the harvest of William Wasson's lifetime pilgrimage. Not diverted by matters other than the ones supporting his goals, not tempted by voices other than the voice of his heart, not led by other motives than his calling.
Father would go and take the boys in a detention home to Mass on Sunday, take care of them and then take them back again. So one day he took me with him, and I was about 8 years old. And when I got out to the detention home, I found they were all sort of free and they'd run around. But one boy was in the cage. It's like a huge bird cage that had been built for him. And he was a runaway. His only crime was that he ran away. And it haunted me. I'll never forget the look in his eyes. The loneliness, he was just cut off completely from humanity. So then I started thinking about that, and then later in prep school, I got together with another classmate and one of the priests, and we would go to visit the prisons and the homes for children where they were detained. And I realized that it was a tremendous calling. So I felt called to do that all through the seminary. I always believed that the church and everyone was trying to help the poor and was trying to save people and help them. My time in the seminary, we were not allowed to read newspapers or secular magazines. So we were cut off from the real world for about 8 years through philosophy and theology. And so I was very naive. I thought that everyone was blessed with the same blessings that I was blessed with.
Just when he had finished his studies for the priesthood, William Wasson developed a thyroid problem. Because the illness was believed to be lasting, he was refused to be ordained. The disappointment was immense.
So then I left the seminary and I had my 2 degrees, and so my father gave me the first $100 bill that I'd ever seen in my life. And he said, take this, and he said, go down south to Mexico and rest for a week or 2 down there. So I did. I decided to get a job and stay there. Took a course in Mexican history, short course. And then I got a job as teaching criminology at the University of the Americas. And then they gave me a job as counselor at the American School Foundation. So I had 2 jobs, and that went on for about a year or so. And still, I would go to Mass every morning, but the door didn't open. And then suddenly, a teacher, a Benedictine monk, who had taught me at the seminary in the States, came to visit me, and I was surprised. And he asked me a very pointed question. He said, "Did you still want to become a priest?" And I said, "Yes," but I said, "No bishop will ordain me." Well, he said, "I want you to come down to Cuernavaca in Morelos, and I want you to talk to the bishop there because he needs priests." So I did. I went down to the bishop, and he asked me about my condition, and I told him. And he said, "Well, can you get a letter from a doctor saying that it's not all that bad and that you can continue working for some years or something, whatever." So I had a very friendly doctor. I got a letter from him of recommendation, and the bishop accepted it. Once I was ordained a priest, he put me in a little tiny church in the marketplace. It's called the Church of the Poor. And in there, I found that I could work like a chaplain. And I rented a little apartment, and I would go back and forth to the church.
After the first year in Cuernavaca, Father Wasson's life changed radically, all because of one event. It turned out to be the very foundation of Nuestros Pequeños Hermanos.
One day when I arrived at the church, the sacristan, who was married and was living upstairs in rooms up above, he rushed down to me and he said, "Father," he said, "a thief came in last night and stole money from the church." A church thief. And of course, in Latin America, nothing worse than a church thief. So the next morning, why, right away, before I could even get in the door, the sacristan came rushing up with smiles. He said, "We caught the thief. We caught the thief." And he said they took him to jail. I was required to go and do something, so I asked to see the thief, and I found out it was a boy 15. So I talked to the boy, and I said, "Look, if I'm able to get you out of here, would you stay with me and go to school and obey me, just as you would of your real father, not your stepfather, your real father?" And he broke down and he said, "Yes." He said, "I will, I will." And he did. He came and he was with me for 4 years. In the meantime, 3 days after I had taken him, they brought me 8 more children from the city jail. So I rented an old abandoned house, and we got all kinds of mattresses and used beds, and I prevailed upon a parishioner to pay the first month's rent, which was 1,000 pesos. And then I got a little help from here and there. And then I would go to the local hotels where they had restaurants, and they would give me the leftover soup. And the leftover soup, of course, during the night would collect bugs and things. But we'd take it back and take out the bugs and heat it up real hot and have that with tortillas. And that was our first meals. My motto has always been, a child is only good because of somebody. You can teach him all of the religion in the world, but he's not going to be good unless it's because of somebody in his life that he wants to copy, some hero who is good. That's the only way to lead a child to goodness, is because of somebody.